One of the things that I've been dwelling on a lot lately is how important struggle is. And for me personally, I do a lot of things, and I do a lot of things that I'm terrible at. And I feel like the more happy I am is when I just get slightly better at these terrible things. Like that's when I feel like little bits of progress.
That is exactly how we're wired to react to success. And if you sort of think about it, think about us as a species, as an animal. If you're presented with a challenge and you get a little dose of endorphins, of dopamine, or some feel-good chemicals when you do a task well, that will encourage you to keep doing that task and keep looking for success, small successes in your life, which is exactly how people adapt and survive in harsh circumstances. The problem with affluent modern society is it takes away all of the tasks of survival, right? No one in this room, I don't think, is having to figure out every morning how to literally physically survive. Where am I going to get the berries I'm going to eat today? Where am I going to go to kill something that I can eat? How am I going to avoid the enemy? Like, we're not thinking like that. And which is an enormous blessing, right? I mean, it's an enormous luxury to live like that. The downside is you don't get this sense of mastery over your circumstances. You actually don't feel responsible for your own survival. You don't feel like you are earning your own survival in the world. You feel like it's being handed to you. And I grew up in an affluent suburb, and I never had a sense as a young man that I was contributing in any way to the fact that I was physically alive on the planet. Well, that's very, very recent in human history that young men could afford to feel that way. It's again, it's a blessing, but also a bit of a curse.
It's the most disconnected amongst us are always spoiled rich kids that get handed everything to them and don't have an understanding at all about the consequences of their behavior.
Yeah, and that kind of life is correlated with depression.
Yeah.
I mean,
and drug abuse.
Yeah, all that stuff. And the suicide rate is rising fastest among middle-aged white men who, if you listen to some people, are apparently, arguably, the demographic that are most privileged in this society.
Yes, doing the best with this civilization that we've constructed, doing the worst biologically, in terms of how they adapt to it.
And psychologically, yeah.
Yeah, the psychologically is a big part of the biology, right? And the thing about this quest for stuff, and one of the things that I thought was really interesting in the book where you were outlining the key factors for happiness, and that wealth is not the primary one, but being good at something, being recognized for being good at something, being a part of a group, like all these things were primary.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, and again, in evolutionary terms, we are safest when we are needed.
Yeah.
So if you're in a group and the group needs you, your status in the group is secure. And it had better be, because humans do not survive alone in the wild. A lone human in nature is a dead human, right? We're primates. We're social primates. A lone primate in nature is a dead primate, and for most of the species. And we get our safety, our protection, from the fact that we work very, very well in groups. We don't have long claws. We don't have sharp teeth. We can't run very fast. We can't climb trees worth a damn. We're extremely vulnerable, and we get our safety and our dominance in the natural world from our ability to work in a group. So if you're necessary to that group, you're safe. So people get very depressed when circumstances in their life change and they're suddenly not needed, right? When people get old and retire, they're at very, very high risk of depression and sometimes suicide.